finishers and factions catching action.
Right, welcome back everyone to a new episode of Finishers and Factions Does SmackDown. This week we are live from the O2 Arena in London. And as normal, myself, Rich, and my co-host, Adam. Adam, welcome in, buddy.
Acknowledge me.
Ah, it's a Tribal Chief reference. Yeah!
I'm going to try and come up with a new one every time, so...
I mean, are we going old school eventually as well, or are we just sticking with the current ones?
I will eventually run out of ideas and have to go old school, yes.
What?
And I'm not talking about tightrope walking and then dropping my full body weight on somebody either.
No, definitely not. Didn't think about that one when I mentioned it. But hey, that was definitely something I should have seen coming, I'm not going to lie.
So should millions and millions of the Rocks fans.
And the 20,000 Canaanites.
And what is it, 50,000 Hulkamaniacs?
I think so.
Depending on how far we're going back. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, the big red machine, the Rock and the Hulk Hogan are not running wild on this one, brother.
No, they are not. But SmackDown most certainly was running wild in London's O2 Arena this week.
Oh, hell yeah. And to be fair, it's the second to last show on the European tour, with Monday Night Raw also coming from the O2 Arena on Monday. And this definitely set the tone for what Raw has in stage for us. Even though, like we said a few times, I think SmackDown at the moment has been the better programming, and it definitely started off that way.
Oh, definitely. It's a case that it's just provided... Raw seems to be made up of a lot of filler at the moment, which is a bit of a shame, as it's always been the flagship show, and they still call it the flagship show. I just don't think it's... I think it's more a bit... There are weeks where it's more shit show rather than flagship show.
Yeah, that's normally when we have an extensive use of the same superstar. It tends to go downhill quite a lot. But, I mean, we had a really good start to this week's episode with the champ himself, Cody Rhodes, joining us in the ring to break things off for the week. Cody Rhodes. Yeah, that's been going through my head all day as well, along with Roman Reigns in a slightly alternate version that we got a little bit later on in the show when we got the contract signing.
Yeah, that's it. But that's
all you're getting for now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Between the crowd singing Cody Rhodes' name and "Let's Go Cena sucks." I love Cody Rhodes' little thing at the moment where he comes down to the ring and he's like, "London, what do you want to talk about?" And everybody knows what we want to talk about at the moment. We want to talk about what he's got to say about John Cena. You know,
not really that interested in what Cody Rhodes had for tea last night, really.
No, not really. No one's going to turn around and be like, "Hey, how's Brandy?" No, we want to know what you've got to say about John Cena, your opponent at WrestleMania, the man who's on a mission to beat Ric Flair's record and get that 17th world title.
I mean, I'd quite happily ask about Brandy, but that would be with less than innocent intentions, to be quite honest.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. You got me there. Yeah. But we don't get to hear...
Like him or loathe him, his wife is hot.
Oh, he's definitely punching above his weight.
Definitely.
He's not the only one in SmackDown that's punching above his weight either. CM Punk is definitely punching above his weight.
100%.
I know they call him Chick Magnet Punk for a reason, but yeah, he definitely realised that he had to wife that one up and did it quickly with AJ.
Definitely. Anyway, this is more digression than I think we've had in the first 5 minutes of an episode. So,
hey, we've broken a record.
Back on track.
It's only one person that can get us back on track, to be fair, after after Cody's very small little segment at the beginning, kind of saying, what he wants, kind of asking the question and saying what he's got to say, because we get Randy Orton come out to the ring pretty quickly as well, and again, the London crowd do not disappoint us, singing the voices back at him, and a lot of the superstars in this opening segment took the opportunity just to sit back, or actually throughout the course of the program, just to sit and kind of take in this London crowd and the engagement they had with it. Because even Randy Orton took his time coming to the ring, just kind of soaking it in and kind of like, this ain't going to get old anytime soon.
Well, this is the last SmackDown of the European tour.
Yeah.
Because later on in the program they mentioned that next week they're in Chicago, which means that they're back in the States.
Which means we are going to have a big CM Punk presence and a CM Punk match next week, because CM Punk is from Chicago, Illinois.
Yeah, of course.
Also going to be mentioned to his favourite pizza place too, but
but yes, we did. We had the Apex Predator himself come out to the ring, and I actually made a note of one thing that has absolutely nothing to do with wrestling, other than the fact that it appeared in a SmackDown ring, and it's one of those little details that apparently my brain latched onto because I found it eternally funny. There were two guys in the front row during this segment. I didn't notice them throughout the rest of the episode because honestly I never thought about it afterwards. Both of them wearing football tops, or soccer tops, depending.
One of them was in a Villa shirt, wasn't he, the dirty bastard?
And the other one was wearing a Blue Nose shirt. So they were literally stood shoulder to shoulder. Yeah, they were stood directly next to one another. You had one of them in a Villa strip, the other one in a Birmingham City Football Club strip.
Which, for those of our American listeners and Australia as well, they are massive rivals. And the reason I don't like them is because the football team I support is from the same city. I'm a West Bromwich Albion fan, and those two teams are our biggest rivals, and they themselves are also massive rivals. So the fact they were stood side by side is quite an interesting one. It'd be like putting a Chicago Bears fan next to a Green Bay Packers fan. It does happen, but they are going to bitch about it.
The rivalry in this season has sort of died down a little bit, with Birmingham City having been relegated. In League One, and Villa have somehow managed to stay in the freaking Premier League. I don't really understand how.
Aston Villa are one of the only English teams left in the Champions League. Right? That says something when Villa are still in the Champions League, and like Liverpool are not in it. Arsenal have gone. Man United aren't in Europe anymore. So for Villa to be left, makes me sick to my stomach.
Do you know, actually, while we're talking about football teams, I saw a video the other day. Again, we're digressing so far off topic, but because we brought it up, I can't not think about it. Is that I saw a video where Plymouth Argyle has two different fan bases. They have a fan base in the UK, in Plymouth itself, where the team is based.
They do.
They also have a fan base in Plymouth in the States.
They do.
Who are also huge Argyle fans.
They're both pilgrims.
Again, I found that eternally funny. Anyway, back to wrestling. We're not here to talk about football.
So Randy Orton comes out to basically give Cody Rhodes a bit of a big up, which wasn't quite what I was expecting, to be fair. He kind of comes out and says, look, you got to look at who Cody Rhodes is as a person and where he's come from within this industry. He said, Cody wasn't happy with the way he was being treated at WWE. He didn't like what was going on. He wasn't getting anywhere. So what did he do? He left. He worked on himself. He went to he set up another company, which is now their competitor in All Elite Wrestling. He went to the top and got himself so over at AEW and on the indie circuits that when he came back to WWE, it continued. And he's just grown further and further and further on, to the point where it kind of, Randy goes on to talk about his adversity. he brings up that quality match that we had a few years ago where Cody Rhodes faced Seth Rollins at Hell in a Cell with his pectoral muscle torn pretty much off his chest by the time he finished that match. Like, I've had some injuries myself over the years, and I couldn't think of how painful that is. And that guy is still wrestling a match with and it looked disgusting too.
Yeah, this is it. It looked gnarly as fuck. And yeah, but this is just, it's a side of Randy Orton we don't see very regularly. It's the warm, fuzzy side of Randy Orton, which we really, really don't see very often.
Well, it's not something we're accustomed to.
No, definitely not.
He's the legend killer, the apex predator, the viper, he's not the cuddly teddy bear. When you think of Randy Orton, you don't think of, come here, gimme, and grabbing his cheeks. You're thinking of RKOs off the top of steel cages, off backflips.
I was going to say, if you're going to try and do anything like that, then yes, you probably are going to end up with an RKO of some description.
Yes. I mean, yeah, definitely. But, yeah, it was kind of interesting to see, because obviously this is, Randy goes on to say how Cody's in charge of his own legacy, and that he loves and respects Cody and is really proud of what he's done. But now it's WrestleMania time. And because it's WrestleMania time, this was the perfect opportunity for Randy Orton to bring up his match at WrestleMania. And basically saying that he's got his match against Kevin Owens, and he cannot wait to kick Kevin Owens' head all over Las Vegas. While at the same time, he thinks Cody Rhodes is going to be whooping John Cena all over the Vegas Strip too. But
I mean, I think we're all hoping for it, realistically.
You know what? I mean, I'd love to see Randy punt Kevin Owens' head that hard it literally does pop off his shoulders. On the other hand, I'm in John Cena's corner rooting for him to win that title.
Really?
Yeah.
You want to see him retire with the WWE title?
I just want to see someone wipe the smug fucking grin off Ric Flair's face, which therefore in turn wipes that smug fucking grin off Charlotte Flair's face, because her daddy isn't number one anymore. Juan Cena will be. And if we can wipe Charlotte Flair's smile off her face, that means that Tiffy's got more of an opportunity to retain that title. And I am rooting for Tiffy.
So I like how you sort of connected all the dots there. The only thing that I'm going to sort of rain on your parade with is that I've seen an interview with Charlotte Flair recently where they talked to her about, what happens if Cena breaks Daddy Dearest's record, sort of thing. And she basically just turns around and says, well, then I'm breaking his record. So because Charlotte Flair wants to be the one to break her father's record for most world titles held, and yeah, I can sort of understand that. But either way, it sounds like we could end up with a Flair on top, regardless. It's just a shame that it has to be that Skeletor-looking bitch.
I mean, yeah, allegedly. I'm going to throw that out there for legal reasons. Allegedly, she's a Skeletor-looking bitch. But talking about bitches, right, after Randy Orton has finished telling everyone about what he wants to do to Kevin Owens, we get WWE's biggest bitch come out. And I'm not talking about The Miz either. I'm talking about Drew McIntyre. He does come out later, but this time we're talking about Drew McIntyre. And how he comes back out to the ring to do yet more crying about how Randy hasn't done anything since his big, amazing return. And that he's had more people talking about his 5-minute title reign than they've ever spoken about Randy Orton's whole career. Bullshit. I call bullshit. we've spoken
I,
more
I
about Randy Orton's career on this podcast than we have Drew McIntyre's 5-minute title reign. So bullshit.
so it's not Randy Orton's career; it's more his comeback.
Ah,
So his comeback for this time so Drew is saying that that people are talking more about his 5-minute title reign than Randy Orton's comeback since Elimination Chamber. I
yes.
want to say.
Well,
Um,
I'm gonna hold off the vulgar joke that I have sat on the tip of my tongue just this once, because we've got a little bit more of this episode to go into, and we don't need my cheap jokes this far into it.
well, Drew doesn't just sort of go after Randy Orton's comeback. One of the things that, again, my brain really latched onto because, yeah, I can't really sort of
Adam risen with the tism
disprove
while
it.
watching SmackDown this week.
Um, well, it was just the fact that he managed to call both Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes. He called them both Nepo babies.
Right.
It just seemed rich to me that the biggest crier in WWE was calling somebody else a baby.
Well, yeah, it is slightly ironic, but don't worry. Drew will continuously cry until Drew McIntyre gets what he thinks he's earned. But he's not on the Indies anymore, and he's definitely not been given the push he was back there. I don't know. To be fair, he's on a pretty solid push at the moment, but it's not really leading anywhere for him. There's no title shots, no title opportunities at the moment coming Drew McIntyre's way, and it has been a while. I say it's been a while since McIntyre had a title. About a year.
Well,
He was champion at WrestleMania last year, wasn't he? As both him and Cody
like
came out of
5 minutes.
WrestleMania as champion, but for 5 minutes, yeah. But until he got cashed in on.
So he didn't come out of WrestleMania as a champion. He went in not
Yeah.
being a champion. He won the championship, lost it again, and then came out without his championship. Even so,
Yeah, I mean, 5-minute title.
yeah, fantastic.
I mean, almost
But
as
again,
thrilling as.
we're sort of just proving his point at this stage.
Yeah, let's not do that too much. Yeah, he does mention at some point that, as normal, it should be Drew McIntyre versus Cody Rhodes for the for the title, as he is the UK's only ever champion. Which again, I'm going to dispute because actually, I don't think I can use that one. Now I'm going to have to put that dispute down because I was going to call Sheamus English, and that's very offensive because he's Irish.
Drew McIntyre's Scottish, so
Yeah, I mean, he's only Scottish when he's winning. He's English when he's losing. A bit like Andy Murray, to be fair.
well, yeah, this is it. Except normally with Andy Murray, it's the other way around. When he was actually competing, he's retired now.
I did find it quite funny how the London crowd did pick on the Scottish wrestlers a little bit. I'll get into it a little bit further on, but they did have a few words to say during Piper Nevin's match that the Netflix and WWE had to edit out, which made the commentary a little bit hard to follow.
I've got to admit, I must have completely blanked on that one, but so I look forward to hearing about that. But yeah, it doesn't take long for Drew to bring everything round to his own problems that he's been having with the Emu version of the Undertaker.
Was it Guy Liner wearing Timu version Undertaker, which I thought was fucking hilarious, to be fair, considering that Damian Priest himself was trained by Mark Calloway. He's just as good as. He's definitely not a Timo version.
No, I think that was more aimed at his look than anything
Yeah.
else, if I'm completely honest. But yeah, it's a case that Drew just starts really trying to prod at different areas to see where he can get a reaction.
And he did get one, to be fair. He
Yeah, it's just not from the person I expected.
No, so Drew poked at Randy Orton a little bit, saying that it won't be him that takes the title off Cody Rhodes, it'll be Drew McIntyre.
Even makes a path.
He explains the pathway.
he makes a pass at the fact that it was what's the word? He was making a pass at it potentially being is it could be Randy Orton's last ever WrestleMania if his back doesn't hold out, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. He says Randy Orton's only jacked on the outside because the inside his back is shattered. The word I used in my notes is fucked, but that is not the word that came out of Drew McIntyre's mouth. Then basically, yeah, Randy Orton's back is destroyed, and Drew McIntyre will break it if needed.
Yeah.
At which point he then turns his attention to Cody Rhodes. I didn't make a note of what was said to Cody. I did make a note of Cody Rhodes punching Drew McIntyre square in the mouth. And
I don't think he ever actually got any words out to Cody before basically Cody decided, nope.
I've heard enough.
Now.
Yeah, so Cody hits him in the mouth. Randy Orton goes for an RKO, but Drew McIntyre manages to wiggle his way out of it like the dirty little rat bastard he is, and makes his way up the entrance ramp, looking back at the guys in the ring with utter disgust. Before we run into a WrestleMania VT. Now, I'm not 100% sure what the contents of the VT about WrestleMania were, because I didn't make a note of it. I was more in trying to catch up on my notes from the end of the promo when the VT was playing. So, Adam, did you get any notes on what this WrestleMania VT had content-wise?
No, I did not, because when I watched it through, it had no relevance to any storyline. And
right,
as
okay.
I said before, I don't generally tend to make notes about anything like that.
Yeah, so that makes our life a bit easier. There was a WrestleMania VT. I'm guessing it was probably just giving you the dates and some of the announced matches that we've already got before it is announced that tonight we are getting a match between Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre. Before we get taken into our first match of the evening. I'm waiting for Adam to say if I've missed something.
Nope.
Yeah, so we get taken into the first match of the evening, which is a tag team title match, which is Street Profits, who come in as the current champions, versus Pretty Deadly. And Pretty Deadly are wrestling in not their hometown, so to speak, but this is their home show for all intensive purposes on this WrestleMania Road to WrestleMania European Tour, which I've seen a lot of people complaining about on social media about why they've done a European tour in the Road to WrestleMania. A lot of people are speculating it's because Cena was filming in Hungary, and it was easier for him to be able to fly to a few European dates, cut a promo, disappear back to Hungary to carry on filming than it was for him to fly to America for a week, or so the last 3 weeks, 2 weeks will I've been on the tour, and lose that filming time.
I think a lot of the backlash from having that fans have had about like the European tour is more. I'm going to be honest. It's more the Americans who have had to. They're basically their watch times have been completely screwed because of the time difference.
It's been putting them on at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon and 1 o'clock in the afternoon, depending on which location in America you're in. Which sucks. You can't sit down and do it either. It must annoy them,
But at the same time, I remember very explicitly having an argument with online last year with an American WWE fan who really went to town on the fact that how inconvenient it was for him at the fact that they were in the middle of a European tour at the time. All of America's watch times were thrown out of whack. And they were having to get up ridiculously early to try and watch the show. Basically, I remember saying, "Yeah, it's almost as if the European fans don't have
we
to
have to do that every week. If I wanted to sit, and I will not lie to you, I do not watch these episodes live. purely for the fact that they're on at 1 o'clock in the morning for me, and for Adam as well. We both have jobs, family commitments. I can't be sitting watching wrestling from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the morning, and then straight recording a podcast until 6 o'clock in the morning to then start doing school run and the rest of my day. I never see my pillow, and me and my pillow have a half decent relationship.
I don't want to know what you do with your pillow, mate.
I just like sleeping with my pillow, to be fair, but I don't get enough time with it as it is.
No, this is it. But yeah, no, it's so I think a lot of the backlash is from really salty American fans that are having to wait. Like, I think I've seen that. I've seen that it's been like 9 o'clock in the morning in some cases, when they've had to when this show's been going out.
I'd be pulling a sickie.
It just doesn't. You've no room to complain when, let's say, 42 out of the 52 weeks a year that WWE tours the States repeatedly.
Right.
That for another 5 or 6 weeks you have to maybe miss watching it live and watch it on catch up instead, because you guys have got families and jobs and school runs and things like that to do. I mean, no, I'm not going to say what I was about to say, but yeah, it just, I think it's a lot of very salty American fans that have become incredibly, I'm going to use the word entitled to the fact that WWE is an American corporation that will ever so occasionally do European tours and things like that. I mean, there's another one planned for
August,
for the summer, so
yeah. But
get used to it.
yeah, I mean, after this match, there was a lot of salty English wrestling fans because, well, as nice as it was to see Pretty Deadly in the ring, and they did put on a very solid performance against a very strong Street Profits, they were unlucky enough this time to not walk away with the win. But they, like I said, they put up a hell of a fight, and there was some brilliant moves in there that I've picked up. I got at one point that one of the members of Pretty Deadly hit spear while the other guy hit a sling blade. So someone referred to it on commentary as a move called spilt milk. On
Right, okay.
yeah, on Angelo Hawkins. D'Angelo Hawkins? Yep.
Didn't realise they were doing mixed tag matches.
Yeah, no, and Montez Ford saved the count on that one by throwing his body in the way to get the shoulders off the mat for his teammate.
Again, I seem to remember Pretty Deadly doing something similar with a move that the Street Profits were trying to pull off, where you had one of Pretty Deadly push the other one out the way and literally take the bullet for him.
He did. I made a note of that, actually. There is a section when Montez Ford comes off the top rope to hit, I'm guessing I think it was a splash or an elbow, but Kit Wilson pushed his partner, rolled his partner out the way and took the shot. And Elton Prince then got the roll up on Montez Ford for a 2 count with that section of the match, which, to be fair, was really nicely timed wrestling. We go back to this quite often and say there was a lot of really good technical wrestling in this, but these guys with the high flying moves they were doing, it was all so well scripted and timed. It was a lot of these moves were pretty much hit to perfection, to be fair.
So again, when we talk, it was pretty simple to see, in my view at least, that while yes, Pretty Deadly were on home turf for all intent and purpose, they were never realistically going to win this match. It didn't make sense in the grander scheme of things for them to win the title at this stage.
Me and you had more of a chance to win the title this time round because Street Profits have only had it for what 2 weeks. They are not dropping that title off that team 2 weeks before Mania, 3 weeks before Mania. That title's not changing hands again because that is going to completely discredit the team that go into WrestleMania with it because of how many times it would have changed hands in the build up to WrestleMania. So those titles have to stay with Street Profits until at least WrestleMania. And as far as I'm aware, I could be wrong, but I believe there hasn't actually had a match set for those tag team titles yet at WrestleMania. So I could be wrong, but it's not one that I remember going, oh, Street Profits are facing DIY at WrestleMania. That's going to be such and such. I've just pulled that one out of my ass as an example. But yeah, I don't think their match has been announced yet, so they're definitely not going to have those titles dropped when they're still building a storyline for WrestleMania.
Yeah, no, nothing has been announced just yet. Pretty Deadly had this match this week because they were the number one contenders for it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure now that they have sort of had their shot who would be sort of next in line. But the idea is that Pretty Deadly now go to the back of the queue.
Well,
I think
guessing it's Los Garza. Yeah, because I'm only going with Los Garza purely for the fact that we saw a backstage promo. I believe it was last week. Could have been the week before with DIY and so Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa with Motor City Machine Guns. So Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley. Basically, the Motor City Machine Guns told them welcome to the back of the queue for the titles. So the only other teams I could think of apart from those two, DIY and Pretty Deadly, sorry, and the holders, Street Profits, is Los Garza.
Yeah, I feel like there's another one that we're forgetting, but
I want to say it's like American Alpha Academy.
No, they're on Raw.
Yeah, Hank and Tank aren't. They're NXT.
Yes, they are.
No, I can't think of another one off the top of my head.
I'm sure it will become evident as time goes on. Anyway.
Yeah, so Street Profits finished this one off with a double team. It was a doomsday blockbuster for a 3 count. So they retained their title that way. And then, Adam, what happened next?
So we go from that match into a backstage promo, which sees a couple of people that we don't really haven't seen a massive amount of, especially in the time that we've been doing this podcast. In a case that, or to the point that I had to sort of Google who the fuck they were, just because again we haven't seen a massive amount of them,
or heard a massive amount of them either.
No, this is it. So who we're referring to is Caden Carter, Katana Chance. We're talking with Zelina Vega backstage about her match last week, which she had with Piper Niven. Basically discussing the ever-present numbers game that goes with when you're in a one-on-one competition, whether it be with Chelsea Green herself or a member of the Secret Hervis.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of Chelsea Green in the Secret Hervis the last few weeks, in different places because they've been making appearances everywhere.
They have been making the rounds. In all fairness, it's
racking up those air miles.
Oh, 100%. But yeah, so they were discussing about this when they were joined by, well, Alba Fire and Piper Niven to begin with. Who
they come and clear the room, making it safe for Chelsea Green to enter. Stupid.
But they basically come in, make a couple of short jokes at Zelina Vega's expense, and then we have Chelsea Green herself join in and continue to make these fucking jokes at Zelina Vega's expense, realistically. Um,
I mean, fair
and
play.
despite Zelina Vega having lost the match last week, I think she's still being viewed or trying to be portrayed in contendership um, for the United States championship. And I'll be honest, I would really like to see the belt on her because, yeah, I'm sort of past
I'm
the
fed up with Chelsea Green.
Secret Service and
Yeah.
yeah, the gimmick's tired now. They've played it to death for me, and as much as I enjoy watching Chelsea Green wrestle because I think she is an incredibly talented individual, I'm just not a fan of the gimmick.
Yeah. I have seen on social media that Chelsea Green's husband is due to be making an appearance on AEW soon for a match against Adam Cope. So we're going to see Matt Cordana on AEW again. I think it's just it's just a one-off. I've seen that on social media today. So that'll be an interesting match. Might be one I'll have to go to YouTube to have a little look at afterwards. So the end of this promo basically finishes with Caden Carter and Cartana Chance having setting up a match against the Secret Hervis later on today. So that's going to be Caden Carter and Katana Chance versus Piper Nevin and Alba Fire. We then go into a VT. I'll tell you what it is, and then I'll get into the reasons why I really dislike this. WWE this year, for the first time, are inducting matches into the Hall of Fame. And the first one that they are going to be inducting into the Hall of Fame was the Stone Cold Steve Austin Bret Hart match from WrestleMania 13. If you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. You can go and find it. It's a hell of a match. Definitely Hall of Fame worthy. But the reason I don't like the fact that adding matches into the Hall of Fame now is because I feel like they've run out of wrestlers they want to put into a Hall of Fame and they're just trying to find things to fill the slots.
I mean, there is going to be an element of that in it, I think, and I think we'd be silly to dismiss it in any way, shape, or form just because, it's. I do and I don't like the fact that they're putting matches into it because it gives them a whole lot of scope for them to put so much more into the Hall of Fame as it goes. It's a case that I'm sort of in the same boat. I don't think matches as such. I think you're going to end up because there are so many matches I could think of that would be worthy of a Hall of Fame entry.
Just off the top of my head, the first one that came to mind was Undertaker and Mankind in that Hell in a Cell match.
Yeah, and we're then going to end up with we've got a few two-time Hall of Fame entrants for different reasons and things like that, which isn't a bad thing because it gives different superstar setups a recognition that they do deserve.
Yes.
We've also got the celebrity wing of the WWE Hall of Fame where they've inducted different celebrities in, such as I think Snoop Dogg was inducted. I think actually the current US president has been inducted.
I'm sure Donald Trump's a celebrity Hall of Famer, yeah.
And nothing against the Celebrity Hall of Fame at all. I like the idea, but this match idea, we're going to end up with like how many of for instance, let's take Ric Flair, Undertaker, Kane. just as three people that I can think of off the top of my head. They are all three are already, if not if they haven't been inducted already, they soon will be. They are each going to be two-time Hall of Fame entrants. The
Yeah.
first two I mentioned definitely are. Kane, I'm a little bit unsure of.
He's in with the Brothers of Destruction.
Yes,
Same with
he is, and I
Undertaker.
don't know if he's in. I
Undertaker
don't
is
know if
not
he's in.
in. Undertaker's been inducted now, isn't he? I'm not sure if
Yes.
Kane has.
No, this is it, and this is where I'm unsure. But let's take Ric Flair and Undertaker, both prolifically good
Yeah.
superstars.
Kane
Have
was
had
class
some.
of 2021.
Oh, was he? Okay,
He
fair
was, yeah.
enough. So all three prolifically good superstars. Hence the reason why they are two-time Hall of Fame inductees. How many more rings can they fit on their fucking fingers before it becomes a problem?
I don't know, but Ozzy Osbourne's a WWE Hall of Famer as well, and
Right, okay.
he's got some rings on his fingers as it is. So I think he'd probably need a few more, a few more fingers. And yep, Donald Trump is definitely on that list as well. Kid Rock is as well.
Oh wow, okay.
Arnold Arnold Schwarzenegger's on the list, but he also used to be a wrestler, so yeah.
No, he was a bodybuilder.
He's a bodybuilder. I'm pretty sure he was active within the wrestling ring for a little while with WWE, though, wasn't he? Sure, he did something.
No, don't think he was. Not to the best of my memory, anyway. He might have done some celebrity spots at some point, but I don't think he was ever like. I don't think we're ever going to find regular match card entries for him or anything like that. Not that I can think of. I could be wrong. But yes, regardless. Anyway, it's a case that where does it end?
Pretty
We're going to
much.
end up with some. We're going to end up with some superstars that are 27-time inducted, and it then loses what makes it special to begin with, in my view.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, it's WWE's Hall of Fame. They do with it what the fuck they want. At the end of the day, it's. But yeah,
Yes, that takes us into
my
our.
viewpoint on it.
That takes us into our second. Oh, actually, it doesn't. We get a small backstage clip of Paul Heyman getting out the back of a black SUV, joined by Roman Reigns at the front before they wander off into the building. And then we go into our first match of the day. No, sorry, second match of the day, which was Caden Carter and Katana Chance versus the Secret Service of Piper Nevin and Alba Fire, accompanied to the ring by Chelsea Green.
Yeah. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not 100% certain how I felt about this match, to be quite honest. It wasn't a bad match, but again, I have my own feelings about the Secret Service, and I think they may have overplayed their hand a little bit with it. But having said that, a very competitive match. It was very nice. It was actually nice to see Caden a chance to see Caden and Katana in the ring, sort of things. Because again, as we mentioned earlier on, the last time they were involved in ring competition was back in December of last year. Sort of was the last time we saw them in a match inside the squared circle. Other than that, we have not seen them at all, which seems honestly a crying shame for them, because they certainly put on what I view to be a clinic in terms of what it was that they've done in the ring. I mean, let's see, what have I got? So,
did you get the Samoan drop that Carter popped on Piper Nevin?
I didn't make a note of that. I do remember seeing it, but I don't remember. I didn't make a note of it.
Right, without being disrespectful, Piper Nevin is a big girl. We know this, right?
Yes.
but the fact that someone managed to pick her up, you know, Caden Carter's not a big girl, right? She's not as built as Jade Cargill. She's your average sized wrestler, average sized person. And she just, the way she dropped, like Samoan drops Piper Nevin, like she's just a bag of sugar. And you're like, what? Like, it was mental. And they do a really cool double team move as well. It's called the kickstand. And one of them, they basically end up like in a vertical base between them. Like as though they were going to do a suplex of some kind, but they stop it at the top. And I can't even describe where it goes from there. But it was a really cool little move that they pulled onto Piper Nevin for a 2 count that Alba Fire had to break up with her jumping onto the count onto the 2 wrestlers while they were being counted. But
one of the things I noticed in this match, do you not? So when it comes to this, like the Secret Hervis, I feel that Piper Niven sort of took a bit of a backseat with this one. Alba Fire did a lot of the heavy lifting for this, in my view. Or have I?
No, you are correct.
Agree?
I would agree with you. You are correct this week that Alba Fire was doing a lot of the legwork. But in previous weeks, we've seen Piper Nevin do more of the legwork than Alba Fire. So I think between the two of them, they're just trying to help each other out by keeping each other fresh. One person takes more of the legwork this time, they're going to be feeling a little bit rougher for next week, but the other person's still going to be pretty fresh. And then they just keep it going, so their rehab time. So you get 2 matches where you're fresh as a daisy every month, or every rotation, so to speak. So, yeah. I mean, it's sensible. That's the way I'd do it anyway. But, Alba Fire did take a beating, and considering we haven't seen Caden Carter and Katana Chance on Finishers and Factions yet, their last match was actually in December. They didn't really have much ring rust. They looked pretty good, didn't they?
Definitely. Really enjoyed what I saw of them, and
I'm looking forward to seeing more.
Again.
Yeah, definitely. I'm hoping this is something we see continuously. I know the women's tag division is quite stacked, but yeah, these guys look like they've got a decent chance to push up the leaderboards a little bit and maybe get a few matches for number 1 contendership. They might not necessarily pull off, but definitely get a couple of opportunities to go to try and become a number 1 contender for the women's tag titles at some point.
Well, I certainly think they'd be able to put on a decent match with current champions Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez.
Definitely.
Yeah, so, but yeah, it was a case that this match itself, the match wasn't particularly long, but it sort of comes down to what happens after the match rather than anything else.
Really. So,
we've seen a lot in terms of like the Secret Hervis and Chelsea Green. There's a lot of miscommunication normally between the Hervis members, and we saw that again this week. Where I wouldn't necessarily. Is it a miscommunication because she was on target until the target moved, basically, but by the time the target had moved, she hadn't got
reaction
any way
time
of being able to adjust it. And what I'm talking about here is that Piper Niven delivers a swanton drop to end up actually delivering it to Alba Fire rather than, I think it was Katana Chance who was due to take that bump and decided nope.
That's not something I'd want to take either, to be fair.
No, I can't say I'd be all up for taking that either. To be quite honest, I feel like I'd probably have I'd probably have the similar injuries to JD McDonough at this point. A couple of broken ribs and a punctured lung.
I mean, yeah, we wouldn't know how to take the move, so we would get hurt in the process of doing that. Where these guys are trained professionals and do know how to take these moves, therefore don't get hurt unless you are JD McDonough and you decide to ragdoll yourself in the midair, then off the announce table. The fact that
Yeah.
guy got up and walked away is
He got up
remarkable.
and continued the match.
Yeah, he continued. He finished the match. Like, I thought the guy pretty much near decapitated himself on the announce table. Gets up and finishes the match, but absolutely nuts. But no, this match finished by Chelsea Green distracting the referee while Piper Niven hits the pipe bomb. Is it pipe bomb or piper bomb? I'm not 100% sure. I think pipe bomb sounds a little bit better. For a 3 count.
I think commentary described it as a Niven driver.
A Niven driver? Then I completely ruined that one. Okay. Yes. So that brings the 3 count, and then after the 3 count, the 2 members of the Secret Service and our current Women's United States champion decide to give Caden Carter and Katana Chance a little bit of a beat down afterwards, up until we get an interference. Well, it's not an interference as such. It was more of a rescue from Adam's favourite SmackDown superstar at the moment, Zelina Vega.
I wouldn't necessarily call her a favourite. I'm just I'm a big advocate for her on this, in the sense that I just don't think she's been booked very well up to this point. I think she's got loads more to give, but yeah, it's nice to see her getting a push at long last, a push on her own rather than a push with a faction of some kind, which is what Raw were doing with her up to the transfer window. But yeah, Zelina Vega seems to clean house with the Hervis, and then she gets the hands of the champion herself as Chelsea Green. Basically, it's actually nice to see Chelsea Green getting her hands dirty for once and not just relying on the Hervis to sort of take care of everything for her.
Kind of had to be fair, because Zelina Vega had already dispatched the Hervis, and it was literally just her and Chelsea Green left.
Yeah, unfortunately, Chelsea Green managed to keep hope alive until Niven and Alba Fire had managed to recover enough to come and help her, and Zelina Vega is left once again laid out in the middle of the ring.
Alba Fire hits a super kick on Zelina Vega, and then Piper Niven hits I've got it down as a running power bomb, but it was more of a cannonball, kind of run at her and then sort of senton her. Running senton? Is that what you'd agree with?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, there we go. I'm trying to get that one right. So we go from that one into a little backstage, tiny little thing where we watch LA Knight walk towards Gorilla with his United States title hanging over his shoulder. Around his waist. He's got his title with him. He walks out for his match to defend the United States title against the biggest SOB in the WWE, Mr. Braun Strowman.
Yeah, and this match I was actually really looking forward to. Again, big fan of the megastar. Think his mic works fantastic.
Big fan of Braun Strowman as well, to be fair.
Yeah, I'm. I was about to say exactly the same thing. It's not taking anything away from the fact that Braun Strowman is. I mean, he is, for all intent and purpose, he's an attraction wrestler. The guy looks as though he's about as big as a telegraph pole.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, he has had some absolutely phenomenal matches, but he is not like traditional attraction wrestlers. So when we look at attraction wrestlers, we're talking like one of the most famous attraction wrestlers was Andre the Giant, the Big Show. These guys didn't have long matches. Yeah, they didn't have long extended matches. It was a case that they came out, demolished, and left.
Yeah,
it wasn't. They didn't have the build for prolonged match types. Now, Andre the Giant definitely fits that bill. Great Khali definitely fits that bill. But Big Show, a little bit different. And again, Braun Strowman, we've seen clips of him throwing announce chairs directly at Roman Reigns at one point.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And we've seen him ragdoll superstars like Brock
Are
Lesnar.
we also forgetting that we have seen this motherfucker flip an ambulance with Roman Reigns in it? Is it Roman Reigns or John Cena?
We've also seen him pull apart part of the ring, the entrance set. He's pulled down a full scaffolding on top of I forget who he was wrestling, but I remember watching him take a rope that had been tied to this like 16-foot tall lot of, I can only describe it as scaffolding, and he literally pulled the damn thing over. So
Also,
this
pretty
guy
sure
is,
we've seen him bend cars, break car doors off for fun as well.
yeah. I mean, the guy is, to say he's built like a brick shithouse is pretty
Yeah,
much insulting brick shithouses at this
yeah. This
point.
this guy is huge. Before we get too much into this match, there's a couple of ETs that we Adam probably didn't make too many notes on because they weren't too relevant to anything inside the ring. We had a quick little VT about Stephanie McMahon's new programming, Stephanie's Place. They've got 10 episodes of that WWE original on ESPN Plus. The first one, I believe, was with CM Punk. They also showed us a couple of people that were in the crowd. Lewis Capaldi was in the crowd. Unfortunately, he is a massive Drew McIntyre fan. Well, they are both Scottish, so it was kind of obvious that's where that was going. And then they showed us a gentleman by the name of Oban Elliott, who is the UFC welterweight prospect from Wales. He's currently on an 8-win streak in the UFC. And one thing I have just remembered from the previous match that I forgot to add in, at one point during the match, if you watch the edited version, the London crowd were chanting, if you hate Scotland, stand up, and fuck off Scotland. Because Piper Nevin is Scottish and the crowd in London were ruthless bastards. But yeah, because of the editing and the loudness of the crowd, the commentary kept cutting out during that match at one point for the fuck off Scotland chant, because Netflix don't allow the word fuck on some of their programming unless they put it up to a certain age rating, and that is not what WWE's contract is. It's a PG rating.
Yeah, this is it.
But yeah, we went into this match for the United States title between LA Knight and Braun Strowman after those series of events, and Adam's going to let us know a little bit about that match to start off with.
I mean, I didn't get a huge amount of notes of like spots during the match because there wasn't a huge amount of spots in this match. The only one that I really sort of made note of was the fact that we see sort of in quite typical Braun Strowman fashion, he very much sort of overpowered LA Knight. LA Knight was trying to fight Braun Strowman on an equal footing when was very much the underdog in terms of strength, at least.
It would take 3 LA Knights to build one Braun Strowman. Yeah.
But having said that, LA Knight, the crazy fucker, still managed to deliver a backdrop to Strowman, got him up off the floor after a couple of attempts, and
a crazy
motherfucker to the mat.
Well, it was more of an angle slam, to be fair. But yeah, even still, he got him up and he dropped him like a deuce. You know, I got a couple of different ones here. I got the fact that Braun Strowman went to run at LA Knight at one point, and LA Knight grabbed the top rope and dropped himself down and sent Braun Strowman to the outside, and then kicked him in the face for doing so.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
I also got that LA Knight hit a bulldog from the second rope to finally drop the monster amongst men on his knees. Sorry, I just sneezed and it's aggravating my nose. There was a quite a nice little elbow drop at one point from LA Knight onto Braun Strowman for a 2 count. And again, at one point, Braun Strowman reversed an attempted BFT, and LA Knight pretty much just got tossed out of the ring at this point onto the outside of the arena. There was an attempt for the Strowman Express. Now, I will say an attempt. LA Knight was on the outside. Braun Strowman was a running. The train was gathering speed. But as he rounded that last corner before LA Knight, he bumped into a flying Jacob Fatu, who appeared from out of the crowd and very much an out of nowhere sort of lineup. But yeah, he basically flying elbowed Braun Strowman and then give him a bit of a whoop down to then finish it off with, finish this specific section of the whooping off with a Samoan. He Samoan dropped Braun Strowman onto the announce table. Like, basically just picked up a car and dropped it backwards.
Yeah, so we've been down on Jacob Fatu for a little while because of the no selling, and don't get me wrong, the no selling still bothers me now. I don't like the fact that they've given him the ability to do that, and they've given him the license.
Just like to put out there that I have not gone down on Jacob Fatu. What Adam has done in his own time is up to him. But
you childish fuck.
Guilty as charged.
You fucking ruined that there.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of these two going off against each other, but for this, the fact that Braun Strowman is again twice the size of Jacob Fatu, for the fact that Fatu just kind of picks him up and drops him, and then kind of walks it off is a little bit like, yeah. Like, the no selling for Fatu, I think, is just part of him now. He's not going to change that. He's been doing it for too long. He even did it before he came to WWE, so it's not something he's learned to do at WWE.
No,
and
I
that's
still don't agree
only
with the fact
I don't agree with it at all. Do not agree with it at all. But I only know about his previous stuff because I've watched a few matches on YouTube, where I've seen like things suggested and just kind of gone, oh, I know who that dude is. But we see. I'm getting fed up of watching Jacob Fatu and Braun Strowman just go at it. I really am. Like, finish it already.
It doesn't seem like it's a program they're quite finished with yet, and we'll get to that in a moment because there is basically the Men's United States Championship match was ended in a no contest.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit odd because I know it's down to referee's discretion as to how they end it, but because Jacob Fatu, the first person he attacked was Braun Strowman, it could have been a DQ. It could have technically been a DQ win for Braun Strowman on that fact. It wouldn't have won him the title, but they could have done it that way instead. But I'm guessing there's a reason behind why they've just written it off as a no contest, and maybe Braun Strowman will get another shot at LA Knight somewhere down the line. Who knows?
We might see that in Chicago. We might not.
Potentially. I doubt it, but potentially. We go from that match into a VT recap of one of my favourite moments.
Yeah, this is the clip that went viral from Jimmy Uso, where, to quote the Usos' cousin, he slapped the lips off a Gunther. And I mean, Adam sent me some TikToks throughout the week since Monday Night Raw, including this slap, and the Bruno Mars one was fucking hilarious.
There have been some absolutely phenomenal ones. I mean, it was described during what happens next by Jackie Redmond as the slap heard around the world, and I'm sorry, I completely freaking agree.
I do.
That thing was a thing of beauty.
That was the nicest fake open hand slap I have ever seen in my life. Like,
Especially considering how smooth it was, I'd argue whether it was actually fake or not.
I
To be
was
quite
just about
honest.
to say that because with the sound and the look on Gunther's face afterwards, was it fake? Did that man serve him a check, and is he due a receipt? Because
There is that possibility.
I mean, we've seen receipts get given in matches before. There was a match actually referring back where Braun Strowman tagged Brock Lesnar with a rather mean knee to the jaw. And Brock Lesnar got up and went full UFC on him and dropped him down to a knee in the ring. Actually, I think Braun Strowman was quoted afterwards by saying, yeah, the dude actually fucking hit me, in as many words. And he saw some slight stars because, yeah, Brock Lesnar did land one on his chin in that combination of punches thrown that were definitely not fake.
Yeah, so in the business, you can write that off as a receipt. There's a certain level of there's still a certain level of respect and sort of safeguarding that goes into giving receipts. One of the examples I always use is Stone Cold Steve Austin tells a story about a receipt that he had to deliver the once. I forget who it was. I've got a feeling that he says it's Big Boss Man, which, if you remember the Attitude Era, I feel everybody should remember Big Boss Man,
Yes.
as he was a former prison guard whose gimmick was a prison guard.
Very inventive by Big Boss Man, though.
I mean, it had nothing to do with Big Boss Man. Let's face it; it was Old Man McMahon who put that one in place. I'm afraid. And yeah, he had a tendency to get a bit overexcited in his matches and work a little bit stiff. And basically, if anybody's ever described as working a bit stiff, it's never normally a work. They're genuinely hitting people, and yeah, basically, Stone Cold Steve Austin tells a story about how he's working with Big Boss Man. He's working a bit stiff, and basically runs him against the ropes for him to do a clothesline where instead of holding his arm at chest level to knock his center of balance, help him take the bump, and holding his arm more or less straight, he holds his arm at a complete right angle, which means that he's still knocking him off balance, knocking his center of gravity, but he's also punching him in the nose at the same time. Now, obviously, that story sounds a hell of a lot better coming out of Steve Austin's mouth than it does mine, but you get the general idea. And yeah, it's a case that, as I've mentioned, Jackie Redmond grabs Jimmy Uso for an interview, and basically Jimmy Uso goes on a little bit of a rant about how he says that he's going to beat Gunther next week in a match, and then Jay's going to go on to beat him in a match at WrestleMania, and everything, the world will be right again, basically.
And then he does the 4 letters, one word. Adam, what is it?
Yeet.
That's the one. He's borrowed his brother's catchphrase for a little night. As he wanders off, though, he bumps into two rather smug-looking bitches by the name of The Miz and Carmelo Hayes.
Or
Which
as they're collectively known, Mellow Dope Miz.
uh, only The Miz could come up with something that stupid that actually seems as though it's going to work.
I mean, yeah. And yeah, they've overheard the. I would say they. Carmelo Hayes says scarily little
Yeah.
in this promo. Realistically, the Miz has overheard him and is mocking Jimmy Uso to Carmelo as Jimmy rounds the corner and basically catches him in the act. And then the Miz, of all people, goes on a bit of a tirade where he's telling him that Jimmy is always going to be known as the other Uso, and that
Right.
both Usos are basically career sidekicks, which is pretty rough when coming from the Miz, of all people, who
Coming
has
from
been.
the guy who got out wrestled by his sidekick.
Which one? That's the question.
Alex Riley.
Alex Riley, Damian Sandow,
Yeah,
R-Truth.
every time he has had a sidekick, he gets out wrestled by them completely. And it's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, having said that, though, scarily few of those sidekicks ever actually end up having a decent run in the WWE. Aside from like R-Truth, and I'm going to use John Morrison as well, just because he did have a decent run,
Yeah.
and then he left, and then he came back, tried to have another decent run, and just couldn't get traction. But yeah, and then basically Miz says about he tries talking a big game and says if Jimmy ever slapped him like Jimmy had slapped Gunther, that he'd still be on the floor. That Jimmy would still be on the floor
Until Jimmy raised his hand and the Miz cowered like a bitch.
Oh, 100%. To say that he flinched was probably a bit of an understatement.
Pretty sure he pooped. I'm pretty
may
sure
well
he may have left a little mark.
Now, we are also treated to the fact that Jimmy Uso and The Miz are going to be facing off in a match later on in the night.
Yeah, Jimmy walks off saying he's going to go and talk to Nick Aldis, but he going to show the Miz the right way to be dealt with by an Uso.
Yeah, pretty much. Now we go from there to another area of backstage,
but not quite. We have a short VT about an event that's happening during WrestleMania week. So every so often, when WWE do their tours and big events and stuff like this, they put on like a big package deal, and there's lots of other bits going on at the same sort of time. This year around WrestleMania, they have an event going on called the One Dead Man Show, which is basically an evening with the Undertaker in a Q&A style thing. Get to hear stories live from Mark Calloway, behind the ropes, so just like style conversations. You get to ask him questions and general like small sort of things. So we had a little VT for that before we went backstage to find some people having a conversation. Adam, who was having that conversation?
Well, it was we were initially treated to the fact that Jacob Fatu moving through backstage after. Well, I imagine he was feeling pretty bloody pleased with himself, to be quite honest. After
He had a
what
little
he'd done
whoop-tee
to
on,
Braun
didn't he?
Strowman earlier on, who was then sort of confronted by both Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga. Now, I found this bit more interesting than I probably should have done, in the sense that when Solo Sikoa first returned after his little after his little bitch fit after losing Tribal Combat, he was being very apologetic, very sort of up the ass of Jacob Fatu.
He
And
was.
this was the first time, in my view, that we saw that mask sort of slip.
I noticed this as well, actually, to be fair, but it was.
Because I saw a lot of tribal chief Solo Sokoa come through in what he goes to Fatu and says, and basically tries to rip Fatu a new one for almost going rogue, and
In a passively
there were
aggressive
small
way.
oh no, I didn't feel like there was any passive aggressiveness in this at all. Um, and actually, I don't know if it was intentional. I feel like it might have been, but at one point you see Jacob Fatu talking, and his hands go into the prayer position in very much the same way that he used to during Bloodline 2.0 sort of thing, because it was very "I love you, Solo," with his hands in the prayer position sort of thing. And his hands started going that way during this conversation with Solo Sokoa here, where basically he said, "Well, why didn't you tell us what you were going to do? We could have come and helped you." Um, and Jacob Fatu slapped straight back and said, "Did you check in with me before you interfered and cost me the match last week?"
That's a fair point.
It is a fair point. I couldn't argue that. I couldn't have argued my way out of that one myself. Um, and after some back and forth, it basically ends with Jacob Fatu saying, "Look, you're either in this with me, or you get the fuck out of my way."
Yeah, so I've got it written down that he'll be the last man standing with Braun Strowman. So get in where you fit in. He's going for the US title, and he'll do it with them or without them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We didn't get a
So
Fatu though as he walked away. Normally we get him doing a Fatu at the end of it. We didn't get that this week. Jacob, I'm disappointed, my bro.
gotta keep things fresh, I suppose.
Definitely. Talking about fresh, that lines up very nicely, sorry, for our next VT. We got something a little bit different from Naomi this week in VT form, discussing how she basically feels that she did the right thing. She's always been known to be a woman who does the right thing, and she's out there she's kind of saying, Bianca, why do you think that this attack on Jade was any different? After everything that Naomi feels she's sacrificed and given up for Bianca, and it just kind of breaks her heart how she's been made out to be the bad one in this situation, and how Jade comes out of nowhere and takes Naomi's place within that friendship.
Feeling very replaced by Jade with Bianca at this point. Although I would make an argument for how you can be the good guy when you hit somebody with a car.
I mean, with an unprovoked attack as well. It's not as though Jade Cargill had given Naomi a beatdown, and Naomi had thought, fuck you, you hit me with a steel chair, I hit you with an SUV.
Yeah, this is it. There was no...
That sort of escalation normally leads you to go into prison.
Yeah, this is it. And we're just definitely seeing a much darker side of Naomi, which, not gonna lie, I'm not against.
I definitely was
nice
not
to see
feeling
this.
the glow.
It's nice to see this different direction of character development for Naomi, and I think very much the theme of this new side of Naomi that we're going to be seeing is proceed with caution.
Definitely.
She's not fucking about anymore. She feels that she's gone too soft for too long, and yeah, not going to stand for any of it. we then cut from that VT to somewhere backstage where Jade Cargill is having a conversation with Nick Aldis about, surprise, surprise, Naomi.
Yep.
Basically, Jade is fucked off that she still hasn't managed to get hands on Naomi properly since Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, but there's been plenty of opportunities for her. She just hasn't taken them. I'm sure the two of them have been at the same building at the same time somewhere. If they're both in London, they were probably both in previous locations.
Well, this is what Jade is trying to ascertain from Nick Aldis during this promo. Is she wants to know where Naomi is, and Nick, I think, has been
hiding.
He's either tried to play it diplomatically and lied to Jade, or he's been very honest and said, "Look, as far as I'm aware, nobody's seen her." Yeah, there's not really an awful lot I can do if she's not here. And Jade basically leaves Nick Aldis saying, "Look, if I see her, it's on site. She is going down."
Yeah, so as she walks away from Nick Aldis, she bumps into Mishin and BFAB that say that they're going to go and take care of business. And they know that Jade is going to do the same as well with Naomi, and Mishin's taking her business tonight is Charlotte Flair. At which point they both wish each other good luck. And we bump off into an Evolve VT. I haven't been watching Evolve, so I'm not going to be able to fill you in too much on that myself. But
I'm not going to be able to fill it. I'm not going to be able.
It's not something you've been watching either, is it?
No. So I've watched a little bit of LFG, but no Evolve.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I've not watched Evolve yet either. If you've watched LFT or Evolve and you want to let us know what you think of it so far, you can do so with our email. It's finishersandfactions@gmail.com. And you can get hold of us on X as well. So that's Finn and Fan Pod on Twitter. Finn and Fan Pod. So if we go from the Evolve VT into an Alistair Black vignette.
Suspected Alistair Black vignette.
It's not, but this is probably the worst kept secret in professional wrestling, other than the fact that professional wrestling is choreographed. Everyone knows what's happening. And then from that vignette, that takes us into our next match, which was Mishin versus Charlotte Flair. Mishin was accompanied to the ring by BFAB. And as the two of them are in the middle of the ring, waiting for Charlotte's music to hit, we got a surprise. Adam, did this surprise you?
Do you know what? It surprised me to begin with because I didn't expect it. I didn't expect what happened to happen, but what happened made sense once it had happened, if that makes any sense at all. So basically, we'll fill the blanks in. So Naomi comes out of the crowd, sneaks up behind both Mishin and BFAB, and basically goes after. Well, she goes after BFAB more than Mishin. I think Mishin was more collateral damage than anything else, as a lot of the offense from Naomi was focused on BFAB, and this was all born out of the conversation from between Mishin, BFAB, and Jade Cargill backstage before the Alistair Black vignette.
I feel Naomi went after BFAB slightly more than Mishin, purely for the reason that Charlotte Flair was coming out anyway to deliver a substantial kick into Mishin anyway. That's obviously what we're going to presume at this point. It's Charlotte Flair and Mishin, in the road to WrestleMania, with the fact there's only 3 weeks left, they're not going to give Charlotte Flair a loss. So you knew that she was going to come out and have a strong performance against Mishin. So why does Naomi need to waste her energy on Mishin when someone else is going to do it for her?
No, this is it.
Work
Naomi did
smarter,
enough
not
to
harder.
Naomi did enough to Mishin to stop her from to stop her from interfering with basically putting the beat down on BFAB.
Yes.
And I mean, Naomi does a hell of a job of taking BFAB out of the equation. As by the end of the beatdown, we have Jade Cargill come in to see off Naomi.
Yeah, Naomi
She
runs like
then
a little bitch too.
She does. I mean, this is part of her heel turn.
It
This is
is.
now going to be expected. Um, and yeah, it's a case that as so BFAB is left in a pretty bad way to the point that she has to be helped out of the ring. She has to be helped out of ringside into the back by an official as well as Jade Cargill
Cargill,
herself. Now, ordinarily, if something like this happens, we have known them before to call the match off. Now, because it's Charlotte Flair, I feel this is the reason why this match wasn't actually called off, because Charlotte Flair came out while they were helping BFAB to the back, and we did have a small moment where we saw sort of Jade Cargill and Charlotte Flair sort of eyeing each other up,
Oh, mate.
sizing each other up.
There was some pure filthy side eye coming from Jade Cargill towards Charlotte Flair, just looking at her like, fuck do you think you are? You ain't nothing, sweetheart. I'm gonna fuck you up.
Well, maybe we get to see this sort of after WrestleMania is maybe a program with Charlotte Flair and Jade Cargill once.
I'd love to see that. I'm not gonna lie. I was about to say I'd pay to see that, but I do pay for my Netflix subscription, so I do pay to
We
see that.
pay to see it all.
Yeah, pay to see everything. Do it all legally here.
Yeah, this is it. And yeah, so Charlotte Flair basically makes her way down to the ring to start her match, a scheduled match with Mishin, who's now sort of
I fucked
she's
up.
operating at half capacity,
Yeah,
at least.
she's half fucked up. She's not feeling good, and then she's got to try and take on a very fresh Charlotte Flair. And to be fair, I'm gonna give it to her. She does manage to get in some pretty sweet offensive moves. She got dropped by a kick at one point that Charlotte Flair tried to pin her for. She got a 1 count, but she was just trying to Charlotte. This was Charlotte Flair trying to assert some dominance that she is the queen and she'll do what she wants. Mishin managed to hit back a little while later with I've got it down as a tornado DDT, but I don't think that's the right phrasing. Either way, it was a DDT, and she got a 2 count off it. You had a Charlotte Flair with a belly to back suplex, which was quite nicely done. At one point, she does try and embarrass Mishin a little bit. She just steps on her like she's a little bit of nothing, and she's walking to the turnbuckle to jump up for her attempted moonsault, of which Mishin managed to reverse, get Charlotte Flair on her shoulders, and drop her with a sit-down powerbomb for a 2 count.
Yep.
We are reminded by the commentary team that this is Mishin's first match outside of Chelsea Green and the Secret Hervis members for quite a while. Mishin's programming recently has been all sort of Chelsea Green and Alba Fire and Piper Nevin. So it's nice to see her facing someone that's not one of those three, and the fact that she is facing the most decorated female superstar is a good sort of test of character for her and a good judge of ability. And she put on a great match against Charlotte Flair. I feel anyway. Wasn't necessarily match of the night, but it was still a great match. One thing I did enjoy, I'm going to throw out there, at one point, the crowd's chanting "Fuck you, Charlotte," and Charlotte Flair just flips the crowd off, and it was quite funny, to be fair. She was definitely playing that heel role well, and the crowd definitely played into the fact that she was a heel by chanting that at her and giving her the opportunity to give them the old birdie it definitely it gave her that little bit of extra heat within the O2 arena.
Yeah, and this match basically ends. It ends as we sort of anybody could have predicted it was going to end. Is that Flair does end up winning this as she locks in the figure eight, which is a figure four with a bridge extension. So just cranking up that extra pressure for it, which we know that Charlotte Flair used on B-Fab. I think it was last week or the week before.
I think so. And even this week, Mishin tapped virtually instantly. She was not going to let Charlotte Flair hold that in for too much longer. And we have known recently that Charlotte Flair has not always been the fastest at breaking that hold after the bell has rung.
No, but again, this is part of her
persona,
part of who she is. So after this match, we go straight into a backstage promo where Jackie Redmond is interviewing our current SmackDown Women's Champion, Tiffany Stratton. And yeah, basically, I thought this was actually they could have done this at any other point during the night, but it had the most effect exactly where it was, directly after Charlotte's match. And yeah, this basically gave, considering Charlotte Flair in their side-by-side video interview, I think it was last week.
It was, and she fucking shit all over Tiffy, gave her no time to talk, and just basically bullied her out of her own promotional interview for her WrestleMania match.
Yeah, and this gave Tiffany a chance to basically sort of retort to that, and she made a couple of really nice points. I mean, one is that obviously Charlotte is incredibly insecure. The fact that she felt she had to bury Tiffany on that promo is, yeah, just fuel to the fire at this point. One point that she does make that I can't really dispute is that Tiffany hasn't got anywhere near as much to lose by losing the match at WrestleMania.
I hadn't
Charlotte
thought about
if she
this
loses
until Tiffy mentioned it, and we'll break it down for you. So Tiffy Stratton basically says if she loses at WrestleMania, she's lost to the woman with the most ever women's titles in WWE. Like, no one has done what she has done title wise in the WWE.
So, one of the most decorated female superstars,
if
in
not
WWE
the most
today.
decorated female superstar in WWE today. You know, so for Tiffy, that's just, I lost to the greatest female WWE performer in history at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
That still doesn't hurt her character at all. If Charlotte loses to Tiffy, her character is basically destroyed.
Yeah, because if Charlotte Flair loses to Tiffany, bearing in mind, Tiffany hasn't been in SmackDown for a year yet.
No.
And yes, like, titles come and titles go. Tiffany has loads of time to win back a title belt at a later date if she does lose. Charlotte Flair has not got enough time to rebuild a reputation if she ends up losing at WrestleMania. So I actually think
nobody, so to speak.
Some people would see this mindset by Tiffany Stratton as quite a negative, quite a defeatist attitude. Yes. But actually, I think this is going to be something that frees Tiffany from the pressure that WrestleMania match holds.
It's going to take all the stress off her shoulders, and she can just go out there and be as natural as she needs to be. And
yeah,
this is a woman who's been to the Olympics, so stress is not going to be an issue for her. She's not going to be. She'll be a little bit nervous. Don't get me wrong. If she wasn't, I'd be scared. But once she gets out there, she'll be fine, because that Olympic mode will kick in, gymnast mode will kick in, and she'll zone into what she's got to do, and that'll be it. She'll do it. And she'll do it very well, I think.
Oh yeah,
I personally, as much as I don't want this to happen, because I'm a rather large fan of Tiffy Stratton, I think Charlotte's going to win at WrestleMania.
yeah, I think she is as well.
They're going to
and,
save her character because, like you said, don't think she's got. Do I reckon she's got more than this I think she'll probably do this WrestleMania and next WrestleMania. And if she loses the next one, she'll retire then.
No, she's a father's daughter. She'll be going until she's on a Zimmer frame, mate.
No, you're not fucking wrong, to be fair.
100%.
Charlotte Flair, the
Flair is
105-time women's WWE champion.
Ric Flair has gone on record already and said that he feels he's got one more match left in him.
Oh no!
I think if that guy has one more match, it's going to be a casket match.
Yeah, and he's going to finish it going into a casket.
So yeah, it's not going to. There is going to come a point where Charlotte Flair should retire.
She won't.
But she won't.
And every match we get from her will basically just be the same quality as that tag match in Saudi Arabia between the Brothers of Destruction and DX.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much what we get from her now, but yeah.
I'm going to use the DX reference here as a segue into our next little VT, because we get a VT for Triple H's it was a VT for the Hall of Fame, one of this year's inductees, one of the very first announced inductees, is our chief content creation officer, Triple H, Paul Levesque,
Yes.
and it was all based around just his entrances. So
I mean, he's had some iconic ones over the years, and this VT basically gives them to you. It shows them you them. It even has a little breakdown from Steffi on some of them. It was actually quite informative. I quite enjoyed this little VT. I actually wish it'd been a little bit longer. I'm not going to lie, but
I enjoyed the fact that it gave you an insight into how his entrances are created. In that Triple H was always really personally involved.
Yeah, I'd like to see what they did with that. As if they did like an hour-long episode with Hunter between talking about his entrances and stuff like that, I'd watch it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Even if it was just like a WWE original one-off, series of just veterans of the industry talking about how they did and how they set up their major entrances for pay-per-views and things, and all the good ones they've done, like this one. Some of the Undertaker ones would have been pretty cool. Yeah, be cool.
So yeah, Triple H has always had a bit of a knack for creating entrances, because Triple H was very hands-on with creating Penta's entrance, and I can imagine he's going to be quite hands-on with when we see Ray Phoenix enter WWE, which
is next week. It is.
Yes,
it's announced a little bit later on in the programming that Ray Phoenix will be debuting on SmackDown in Chicago, Illinois, next week.
Yes. Now we move into a semi-familiar segment here where WWE recant us on some of the statistics from the city in which the program takes place.
Yes.
So WWE in London. Now this episode of SmackDown happens to be the 16th episode of SmackDown broadcast from London itself, and the 36th TV broadcast ever. And
but it is the first SmackDown since 2023. Not 100% sure which month. You've probably got that written down.
No, I haven't. I meant to go and research it and just haven't had time in the day to do it.
Yeah, it's been a busy day for both of us, to be fair.
Yes, it most certainly has. But that sort of very short segment there takes us into match 5 on the card, unless I've missed something.
This brings us into Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre. This is the 9th time that the two of them have gone one-on-one in WWE. Drew McIntyre is 3-0 in London. He has not lost a WWE show in London, and going into this one, it's got a bit of a WrestleMania. It was quoted by commentary as having a WrestleMania or a PLE style main event match just thrown into a normal television episode. And to be fair, I kind of agree with that. These are two massive superstars. They did say on Drew's entrance that combined in the ring, they had 17 world titles. What I'd like to point out is that Randy Orton has 14 of them himself.
Yes.
So it wasn't quite as impressive of a statistic as they were trying to make it out to be. But yeah, so between them they have 17 world titles, but Randy Orton has 14 of those.
Yeah, and the shortest of those title reigns was about 5.5 minutes. And that wasn't Randy Orton's. But we're not supposed to focus on that.
No, we're not.
But
We'll
do
talk
you know
about
what?
Randy Orton.
Do you know what? Because it's a Randy Orton match, it instantly became a favourite of mine. I mean, I've always been a fan of Randy Orton. The presentation he puts forward, the professionalism behind his matches, and
I just like his entry music.
That too. But
treated to it twice in one night, which is always a bonus because he was talking to Cody Rhodes at the start of the evening, and now he's having a match midway through it.
Yeah, this is it, and it's just like Randy Orton in general. And again, I rag on Drew McIntyre quite a lot, and I'm not letting the name go. That's going to be something that sticks with me for a very long time. But big fan of Drew. In fairness, I like the presentation that Drew puts forward. So I am very sort of behind this match. Don't get me wrong, his current persona being a whiny bitch, I just don't get behind at all. But yeah, it is a case that this match was just phenomenal. I mean, realistically. Any particular spots in this, Rich, that you want to sort of bring up, or?
I mean, I've got here that Randy Orton hit a rather sweet snap slam on the Scottish Crybaby. He used the second rope to deliver his normal DDT. I don't actually know what it's called, but I do know it's very cool, and I enjoy watching him do it. And he does do it pretty much every time he hits the ring for a match. We at some point end up with Kevin Owens watching from the ramp, and Kevin Owens being there takes Randy Orton's concentration away from the Scottish Crybaby, and with that, Drew McIntyre hits a rather sweet Claymore for the 3, or for the 1, 2, 3. And that gives McIntyre his 4th win in London, which means he's still unbeaten in London with WWE shows. And, after Randy Orton's got his ass up from being smashed by that Claymore, him and Kevin Owens end up getting into it, to the point where Kevin goes to slam him onto the announce desk. And Randy manages to bang him off it, bouncing Kevin Owens off the announce table. And then at one point, Kevin Owens has got Randy in position for a package pile driver attempt on the announce desk.
Yeah.
But Randy manages to get himself out of that one. The Viper slithers himself out of that, because that was what put him out injured for so long. And as he lines
Kevin
up.
Owens finds himself in a dangerous position for a punt kick.
Oh, yes. But again, like Naomi, the dirty little rat went running out through the crowd as officials and security stopped Randy Orton from punting Kevin Owens' head off his shoulders. I am virtually now guaranteeing I feel that we are going to see that punt kick at WrestleMania. I do not think we'll see it
100%.
beforehand. They're going to use that to get people to watch it because they're going to be like, well, is Randy Orton going to kick his head off his shoulders? Fucking right, Randy Orton's going to kick his head off his shoulders.
Oh, 100% he is.
Oh, I can't wait.
But
Kevin Owens is going to be on the receiving end of an ass kicking from hell in 2 consecutive pay-per-views.
yeah, this is it. But moving on from that match, it is a case that we then get the Rey Fenix vignette that we mentioned a few moments ago, where he's debuting next Friday. We then go into
Wait a
the
minute.
very last match.
Stop.
Ooh, have I missed something?